Hey, everybody, this is William Rochelle, but you can call me Bill. And I am here with UBU Live's spinoff called The Cousin Talk. Right now, we have the wonderful joy of being with Olivia Scott, who is
Hello.
who, who is the daughter of let me see, my phone says BS. So great initials, my friend. My cousin Bill Scott. One of the things that people didn't realize yesterday when I was talking to them is that I don't meet most of my cousins before they come on. So Olivia and I have had a text string back and forth, but we've never spoken. And about 30 seconds ago, we said hi. And that's kind of intentional because I really want an authentic meeting, and I want to be transparent and ask questions and not go through something that we've already prepped for.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours.
He actually talked to your brother yesterday, Olivia.
Okay, awesome. This is my first time on a podcast, so bear with me. He's way better than I am. He's a natural, and
Who,
I'm
me
No,
yeah.
or your
Well,
dad?
so are you? Not my dad.
Your dad is fantastic.
I'm just
Yeah.
joking. I'm just joking. But thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here. Should I just start with a quick introduction?
Do you want to start with a quick introduction? Because
Yeah.
really, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Do whatever you got to do.
You
Yeah.
guys are gonna have to kind of help lead me through this.
Of course.
So I'm Olivia, and right now I'm in Princeton, New Jersey for the summer. I'm doing an internship. I'm about to be my senior year of college. I go to the University of Michigan. And yeah, I'm trying to think of some interesting facts about about myself.
Where'd you spend the last 4 months?
Well, I spent the last 4 months in France. So I just came home from France. I know. I was studying abroad in Aix-en-Provence, which is in the south of France. And I was doing an international relations program there. I'm an international studies and political science major. So I had the opportunity to go to France and almost complete one of my majors and get to travel around a little bit, which was fun.
She likes to
Excellent.
travel.
I do like to travel.
What was your favorite city visiting, Liz, when you were there?
This is so hard because I loved every city I went to.
And she visited Mother Africa. She actually went to Morocco.
Well, yeah. So I will. Morocco was my favorite trip that I went on. My favorite city was Amsterdam. I think that'd be my number one. I love
That's everyone's favorite city. Can we ask what you did in Amsterdam, or is that like?
Well, I probably can't say everything I did in Amsterdam, but
Okay.
I did a lot of walking around,
Walking, okay.
exploring the cafes, being in nature. I was by myself. It was a solo trip. So
Okay.
and I finished off in Amsterdam. So I explored some of the delicacies for sure.
Okay. All right. I understand.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So being a single woman in Amsterdam, were you nervous?
I was not Amsterdam is a pretty safe city. It's a very young city, so there's a lot of people around my age. So I was not super nervous. It was also the last leg of my solo trip. So, my dad's disappeared. Oh, there you are. So I had a week off for my spring break. I went to Vienna first, or I went to Austria first, and I went to Vienna, Salzburg. I also did Budapest during that time. So by the time I was in Amsterdam, it was my last leg of my first solo trip. So I was not feeling super intimidated.
Okay. All right. I can ask anything, and you can say I'm not going to respond to anything.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. So if I were in Amsterdam, I would have gone to the red light district. Just not to
Yeah.
Not to partake, but just to say I went.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
I did not go to the red light district.
Okay.
That is actually, it's funny, like bringing up me being a single woman. I was feeling a little too creeped out to go to the red light district. I think it's cool. I would have enjoyed it more being with if I was with my friends, I would have
Right.
100% went. By myself, I felt like kind of like I'm a pervert. And I also, I was sorry. No,
Yeah.
I did not hit the red light district.
Okay.
I was focusing more on the green lights and and all of those.
I think she's totally judging you, Billy.
No,
No,
for
she's
not
not.
sure.
No,
For
because
sure.
because I prefaced it with I wouldn't have gone for any
Yeah.
other reason except to say
Sure.
I saw it. You
Yeah.
know, and,
Well, I will say though, I had a lot of friends because if I went to Amsterdam with the group, I definitely would have gone because it's very common for abroad. They have shows at the red light district, and it's very common for people to go. And my friends went and saw shows, and it's a funny experience. It's like it's jarring. It's different than what you would get in the United States. So I don't judge. I think you
Right.
should. But I was by myself. I
yeah.
didn't want to do it by myself.
I wouldn't have recommended that you do it by yourself. But it's a question, and I don't like to leave questions unanswered or unasked. Wait, I can leave them unanswered, but not unasked. Does that make sense?
Ask me anything. I love it. I love
Okay.
it.
So can I ask you this question?
Yes.
Has anyone ever told you that your dad looked like Stanley Tucci?
No.
Do you see it now?
I kind of see it a little bit, although I kind of see him. I think you look a little more like, if I'm thinking of the right guy, 100%.
Yeah, like it's because he's a little fatter in the face, so it makes sense.
I know.
Oh my God. See, it starts already. Really, what I want to do with you, Mr. Scott, is you and CJ need to be on the same show. I keep trying to make it happen, but he's super busy.
Well, speaking of Mr. Scott's,
Gosh, there's my grandpa. Hello, how are you?
These are three generations right in front of you.
Yeah.
That's father, son, and daughter. So I look like Stanley Tucci.
Yes.
I'm so good looking though. I don't understand that.
I find Stanley. Am I thinking of the right guy? I might need. Let me look him up.
But yeah, you should Google him and then you'll understand. I think he was in Devil Wears
Yes,
Prada.
I know exactly. Yes, I'm thinking of the right guy, and I think it's the glasses. You have a good fit on right now, and I think I'm just thinking about him in the Devil Wears Prada. So
good fit. See, it's great when you hear that from the younger generation because it means it's real, right?
Yeah.
And I know what a good fit means.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because someone said it to me once, and I was like,
Dad, do you know what that means? Good fit.
good outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well, he kind of does that, like that whole Miami thing, like with all the labels and stuff.
Are you from Miami?
That's where he lives now.
So, fun fact: I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Okay, cool.
And I was going to ask you about this, so bear with me. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and then partially in Springfield. So every summer we'd spend with my grandmother and your great grandfather, Uncle Buzz, Aunt Emma, my grandma Emma, and your grandpa and Chrissy and all those guys. I don't know if you know all of them, but I moved to Los Angeles when I was 12.
Okay.
So up until that point, Bill and I spent a ton of time together. And then after 12, we just lost connection.
Yeah.
And then I saw him again when you and Kathy came to Aunt Emma's funeral. And so that was the first time we had seen each other in maybe 30 years or something like that.
Time. Yeah. Wow.
And so we reconnected because I have a podcast called UBU Live.
Okay.
And I asked Bill if he would come on a Saturday and just record with me because my normal show's on Sunday. And he said, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait until next week. And I was like, I literally thought it was going to be a one-off.
Okay, yes.
And when he said that, I'm like, okay, if he's willing to come back. And slowly but surely, we started getting other people like your grandfather, like his cousin Jimmy, that actually commented and said, I'd like to be on. And so it just kind of bankrolled into
That's awesome.
what we're doing now. But here's my $1 million question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Growing up in Los Angeles, growing up in Chicago on the South Side, it's a predominantly Black area.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, people would say, and I'm Black, no matter what my skin tone is, that's my heritage. People would say, you're not Black, you're white. And then when I got to LA, it was different because everyone was biracial. Like that's a generalization.
Okay.
But it was more of the biracial acceptance. So I didn't have to claim anything. I was just like, I am who I am.
Okay.
So I found it difficult being a Black man, growing up in a Black community, not being accepted by the Black people around me.
Okay. Yes.
All right. You're growing up as a biracial woman.
Yes.
Do you ever have to feel like you have to choose a side, or how do you navigate that?
It's definitely an interesting question that I think about a lot. It's difficult because I'm obviously of a lighter complexion. And I usually actually have my hair straight, which I was gonna do for the podcast, but I ran out of time. So
you look cute.
Thank you. It's in a ponytail now. So it's a good question, and I could talk about it for a long time.
Go ahead.
Let me try to just gather my thoughts.
Because if you look at the three of us, you wouldn't know. There's no difference in our complexion or anything else, right? So all three of us, we look related, right?
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Imagine that.
Yeah,
but it's interesting.
Oh, sorry. I didn't have to pick a side. I knew what my side was, and at one point, I'm kind of embarrassed, but at one point, I would just lie and say,
comments from the.
I would lie and just say, "Oh, well, I'm Black and whatever," because people always go, "Well, what do you mix with?" And I was like, "Nothing." And then it got so annoying that I would just make shit up. Like, okay, I'm Black and Mexican.
It's interesting because I definitely grew up around more white people than Black people, I would say, and I think a lot of times I feel like a lot of times me being biracial is kind of discredited. I get more like clumped into, being a white girl because a lot of my friends are white and I have a lighter skin tone and, I straighten my hair. And so actually a lot of times people can't really tell, which has always affected me because then I have a Black dad. And I have growing up I had my papa who's Black and my Nana lives super, super close and she was in my life a lot. And so I've had, I do feel I've had Black people raise me, and so it has bothered me a lot. There's nothing wrong with being white, but I'm not completely white, and so I don't like to be generalized or just put in that category. But I do feel that I've been told so many times that I am that it kind of makes me. Sometimes I feel like. One half of me has been kind of taken away, that I've just kind of been put in one category. So it's something I'm still trying to reclaim and be comfortable in, but it's definitely difficult, but it's never like I had to choose a side. It's more I was just put in one.
Put into it. You were put into a
but
category.
It's interesting because I was talking about, when I was abroad, there were only 2 Black guys in my program, and I was at a vineyard with one, and we became friends because we went to Morocco together. And he was like, well, I could 100% tell, but
Yeah,
white people
Exactly.
can't. So I think it's funny. I think it's funny, but it's definitely
That's been my experience too, Olivia.
yeah,
Like other people outside our race are like, oh, what are you? I didn't think you. No, you're not
yeah,
black. And then you have to like try to explain yourself. But if I'm
yeah,
walking down the street, if I'm walking down the street, if I see another black person, hey, what's up, brother? It's like,
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely,
It's because like people think like black means you have to look a certain way or speak a certain way.
mhm,
exactly.
That's not what it is.
yeah,
It's
100%.
like, yeah.
No, I
So,
agree.
so this is what bothers me the most.
Okay.
Um, I've been in situations where I hear what other people say about my community because they don't understand who I am.
Yeah.
And I get really affected by it. And I didn't realize how strong I was because as I've gotten older, I don't let it slide.
Yeah.
I'm not rude, but I'm like, do you realize what you just said was
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z? So I'll give you one statement. So I was in a car with a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and she is from Israel, and I was driving down the street, and I said, "How do these young kids afford an S class?"
Yeah.
And she said, "He's a drug dealer." And I said, "That white kid's a drug dealer?" And she said, "Oh, he has rich parents." And so in that moment, I had to stop and say, so if until you realized that he wasn't a black person,
Yeah.
you assumed if he was a drug dealer. But then when you looked over and realized that he was Caucasian, he had rich parents. And it's weird how and she said, "Well, I'm not racist." And I'm not saying that you are.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you have a preconceived
Yeah.
notion that I have to educate you on
Yeah.
because what you just said and not even recognizing who you said it to is is not is
It's
not
not.
going to fly.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. No, I think race is socially constructed, at least to the point like how it is today. And you have your ethnicity, but race is something that you could go into like talking about it. It's hard to I feel like I don't have the words right now to like truly go into depth, but I've taken a lot of classes on this for my major. And
What's
it's
what type of classes? I'm
I've
not
said
that smart, so
no, no, you
you have to break it down for me.
I've taken a lot of so many different political science and sociology classes specifically about just like different races in society. And I think the most notable one was actually about Asian Pacific Americans, but it involved all races because a big point of the course was talking about racialization in America. So it's the concept of in like the racial hierarchy in America, you have white people at the top, and then black people have always been at the bottom, and that was slavery and just how it's been in America. And so when you have other races who immigrate to the country and start to fit into society, there's a process called racialization because they're not white, but they're also not black. And so then in order to assimilate and try to, I guess, make their way into society, they try to associate as much as possible with white people. And what a lot of that turned into was building prejudice and being racist towards black people because they were perceived to be at the bottom. So it's almost like if you're racist, it makes you more like a white person. And that in their minds was how they, I guess, became more like dignified in society. But I guess my point of saying that is it's racism, or not even racism, but microaggressions are so embedded into our country and our society that people just they think the way they think and they don't realize the implications of it or how it's racially motivated. And I think your story is a really, really good example of that.
Thank you. See, all I need are compliments, Mr. Scott. You know, telling me my fit is good and that my story was an excellent example. Why is it so hard to get
It's because
compliments from
he's
you?
so dang fragile. He's in constant,
I'm not fragile, first of all.
Yeah.
I'm very strong, confident, and secure. I am. These are my affirmations for the day. It's interesting. So was it different when you went to other countries?
That it's interesting. I mean, first of all, when going to Europe and being in France, and there's not as many. There's diversity, but it's not as big as when you're in America. So
Okay.
I wasn't really able to, like, when I was in France, I was mostly surrounded by French people or people in my program who happened to be majority white. So it was different. Like the conversations that you have about race in America is different than in Europe because it's so, for the most part, like the nationality in a country is primarily the nationality of like that origin, that there's different, I don't know, the context is kind of different. So
I
I
me one too.
make a direct
Will you grab me one too?
comparison, but it is an interesting question.
Yeah. So and I've been waiting to ask you this question since you got back. When you were, so America's going through something.
Yeah.
Definitely. When you were overseas, what was the vibe about what we're going through right now?
It's I mean, especially in French, it's less taboo to talk about politics in European countries than it is perceived to be in America. So I was in a homestay. I had a homestay mom named Marie. We had dinner every night. And she talked about Trump all the time. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you're referring to, but obviously there's more than just that. And they're concerned, you know, like what happens in America has implications for what happens in countries all across the world, and they're super, super concerned, and they would, almost anyone who I would meet on the street would ask me about, oh, what do you think about Trump? Do you like Trump? But not all Europeans dislike him as a candidate. But that's kind of like Americans too, you know, not every American hates Trump. I met people when I was in Saint-Tropez who liked Trump because they liked his stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict. So it's the same kind of back and forth and divide, but mostly negative sentiment, and it's less taboo to talk about.
Okay. And it seems to me like I think anyone that's anti-immigrant is going to be someone that likes Trump. Like, for example, the president of Hungary is often described as a European Trump because he has very conservative policies. He's kind of pushing this pro-white agenda. So I think there's going to be a lot of smaller, like Trump-like candidates going forward everywhere.
And there's a rise in the right wing in France. Politics is similar to American, and there's definitely honestly the rise in like alt-right ideologies, it's rising kind of worldwide, but it's happening first as in a president's been elected in America, and so it's definitely starting to alarm people all over the world, and it
for sure
alarms me. Yeah.
Hey, can we go back and talk about a funny story? When we were talking about racial identity and people not knowing who you are, you were telling me a story about how some kid was trying to tell you all about hip hop.
Yeah, that was in France because he has a radio. He goes to Denison. Um, he's he's a white. I mean, anybody can enjoy hip hop,
Yeah.
obviously,
Right,
but
yeah.
it's primarily Black artists, and he has I guess like a. I mean, it sounded cool in concept. It's like a late night radio show. And he was going through like artists he liked, and I asked him if I'm a big A Tribe Called Quest fan, and I asked him if he was a fan, and he said, well, this is an example about being not profiled, but people thinking I'm white. He's like, well, that's just a group that all white girls say they like to act like they like hip hop, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
What was your
Right.
response though?
Oh, I said it's my dad's Black. It's one of his favorite groups. So do you wanna rethink what
the hell you just said?
Yeah, I did say that. I'm sorry, that was stupid. And I'm like, but you don't you don't have to. I know that pissed me off. A, because I love A Tribe Called Quest, and B, you don't know what you're talking about. But it was funny. Maybe I got too heated about it, but
That's similar to what I just said. Like they're there. You get put into a group, or people don't understand who you are.
Yeah.
And they say something that is uneducated.
Yeah.
Let's use that as a word. It really is more. I think there's a difference between perception and prejudice.
Right.
Because perception, is something that you can be taught, and you can say, okay, this is what you perceive, but this is what really happened.
Yeah.
And prejudice is knowing that you're wrong and still keeping that perception.
Right.
So anyway,
I think that's a good distinction. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wrote an article about it not too long ago, so that's why it's still fresh. It's still fresh in my head, because a lot of times we say, you're racist or you're prejudiced. I'm like, but there's a difference,
Yeah.
I was the same thing like you. I was in Dallas. I moved from LA to Dallas, and I picked up a guy from Georgia. Actually, that doesn't sound right.
That sounds kind of weird, though. Was it in the red light district?
No. So we
No
all
one's judging you.
No, we all migrated to Dallas, and my friend was from Georgia, and he had migrated to Dallas for the job too. So I migrated from LA. He migrated from Georgia, but his car hadn't arrived yet.
Okay.
So mine had. I got there a week earlier, and we were both in the same corporate apartment.
Okay.
Not in the same apartment, but in the same building.
Okay.
And he said, "Can you drive me someplace?" And I'm like, "Okay, I've never met this guy, but all right, I'll pick him up. Let's be neighborly." And when he was a white guy, so when he came out, I turned on a country music station, and we're driving down the street, and he's like, "Do you like Shania Twain?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's great. Why not?" And he's like, "Because I'd really prefer to hear some Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre." Like, he was naming all these things.
Yeah.
But I just perceived naturally, white guy, Georgia, he's going to want to listen to some country music. So let's play it and make him feel comfy.
Yeah.
I live by the rule. I actually live by the rule of my car, my music. So,
yeah.
But
my stereotypes are so reinforced, whether that's subconsciously or unsubconsciously, that it's the way that you can't help but think sometimes, and it goes both ways, black to white to black, 100 or
anything. One of the things that you touched on that, and this is why I don't talk to people before they come on. Okay. Because this conversation is going in multiple directions, and it's really layered. Yeah. To me. Right. So it's not stuck in one position. You said it, and I've thought it. I've never actually said it, but other people from other countries come in, and no matter where they're from, the black man is the lowest man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
No matter where they come from.
100%.
And what I will say is, if your dad looks to his right, he knows someone that marched so that we would have civil rights, so that the other people that came here could stand on his back
Yeah.
in order to have those equal rights. The equal rights that we have are the age of your dad.
Yeah. It's super young.
Like it hasn't been that long
No, not at all.
since the Civil Rights Act, and it was your father and your I'm sorry, your grandfather and your great grandfather and my mom and my grandpa that walked and marched in those marches and lost our lives, and still we don't get that credit.
Yep.
And the reason why other people, and I'm sorry guys, not offending anyone, the reason why other people can walk into this country and get ahead quicker than we can is because we did that legwork.
Yeah.
That legwork was put in, and it wasn't just us, it was people like your mom that joined in on it, and other other people that joined.
Lots of allies
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so it wasn't one, but it was easier to target your grandfather because you can just see it. You can see his race. And so it's easier to do that, where Bill and I may not have gotten as hit as hard during that time because they didn't know who or what we were.
Yeah. 100%. And no, it really is a social science that I learned about it. And it's a good point because the first civil rights walks and marches, it was started by Black people, and it's disappointing. But at the same time, thinking about it in a different way, it's I don't know how to put this, but that kind of phenomenon of when other people come into the country and choose to
they try to leapfrog.
That is also a process of marginalization and the type of I don't know, just the social hierarchy that created by white people. And they're allies, but that's just how it was in this country. That is who started that type of hierarchy. And so it's almost like other minorities are still victims. And
you see what cousin Deborah said in the comments?
Yeah.
Even fair skinned blacks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's interesting to think about how minorities are kind of pit against each other in this country. And so it's unfortunate, but then it's also unfortunate that it happens, and it's unfortunate that people feel like in order to make their way in this country, they have to have prejudice against other people. It's unfortunate, but it's a good point that you made about we created the stepping stones for civil rights and for diversity, equity, inclusion to even be a thing. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you guys, today is the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre. I believe it was in 1921 on this day.
104 years ago.
Yeah, is that crazy?
Yeah.
What's crazy about that is that I did not know about the Tulsa massacre.
No, but they want to bury it.
I had no idea. Do you know when I found out? There was a show on. Damn it, I can't remember the name of it, but it started off with this bombing, and it was 4 years ago during COVID. I think it aired, or maybe I just binged it. And that's when I found out about it. And I'm like, what a crazy scene that was.
Yeah.
And then someone said, no, that was an actual piece of our history that they've never taught us.
Yep.
So I will be honest, I've never been taught this. I don't know what the Tulsa massacre is.
So Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was this neighborhood of 10,000 residents.
Hold on for a second, okay?
All right.
I'm going to do what your dad does to me. I'm going to step away for 2 seconds and let him explain the story to you, okay?
I will.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
We'll probably have better flow now anyway. So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a community of about 10,000 residents who were middle class, had thriving businesses, great quality of life, were really doing well for themselves. I think it was called the Greenwood neighborhood in Tulsa. There was an incident that triggered, there was some sort of assault and some guy got arrested, and basically racists in that area used that as an excuse to basically attack the neighborhood. And then, like you said, they actually attacked by air and land. At this point, World War I was over. A lot of veterans were back. And they basically burned the neighborhood to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing was ever done. No one was ever charged. I believe like 100 people died and 10,000 people were displaced.
Oh my God.
And even over the years, they've tried to bring it up as far as reparations and at least something on Oklahoma law that, hey, this happened, and it just keeps getting brushed aside.
Yeah. That's wow. I mean, because I didn't even know about it.
Yeah. Well, then, pardon me, I failed as a dad, but 104 years ago today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That does sound kind of familiar.
You didn't fail as a dad because we didn't grow up being taught that. When did you learn it, sir?
Probably during college, maybe after college, on my own, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you knew before me. The other part about this, which it all came full circle. So I saw the show first, Olivia, and then in 2020, when Donald Trump was running for re-election, he held his first campaign rally on the grounds in Tulsa of that massacre.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was very ironic how he chose the venue.
Yeah.
And it was right around Juneteenth.
I don't think there's any irony at all. I think that's purposeful.
Well, I'm trying to be play middle of the road, right?
No. Let's not be like let's not be middle of the road. I mean, you can, but
so there's a lot of interesting things that are happening today that are if you understand history, you recognize where we're going, and in the history of America, the history in Germany, the history of the Jewish community, like all these things we need to be aware of while we're watching things getting dismantled.
Absolutely. And I do agree with Deborah. It was done purposely. I feel, looking at the comments, I do feel,
yeah, absolutely. She's absolutely right. Absolutely. And hello to everyone in the chat. Sorry that we're not getting back to you, but we start to get in really engrossed. That's the thing about the Scots. Once we start talking, hold on, because everyone's going to jump in and get their point across and get mad at each other maybe for a little bit, but then come back together.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
What did Papa say, Dad?
What's that? Go ahead.
No, I just want to interject that if you Google it, you learn that Tulsa was not the only situation. There were multiple cities and townships where blacks were attacked.
There's a big one in Florida too,
and destroyed. Like for instance, Wilmington, North Carolina is one. So Tulsa is always held up, but there are multiple other cities. Where that happened.
And
Thank you.
And I feel like, and that's like I get frustrated when the new administration wants to get rid of education about. Oh, is this on LinkedIn? Sorry, I got distracted.
So we're on everywhere. So the podcast is on YouTube. I have my biggest audience is on LinkedIn. So I have 30,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
And I don't have a ton on YouTube. So I'm trying to
everyone, she's a college senior coming out in a year. Lots of experience.
We need to connect on LinkedIn. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I have tons of followers on LinkedIn. So when you're looking on YouTube and you say, oh, there's only 75 people that watch, there's like 1,000 people that watched on LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. Wow.
And then I'm also doing it live on Instagram and on Facebook. And then I'm trying to do TikTok, but okay. All right. So let's make sure that we get that right. She said, correct, Pooji. Many black towns were eradicated during that time. Not I'm trying to correct Pooji.
And that's Deborah. That's the
Which includes Springfield, Illinois, by in fact.
Well, they went through a riot, right? In 19, I think I talked to
1908.
yeah, during our grandparents' time.
Oh,
So Pooji, while you're there, can you tell us about Grandpa and Grandma Scott? And how did they own so much land in Springfield during that time?
Because the brothers, the Scott brothers, were astute businessmen. At one time, the Scots gravitated from Virginia through Pennsylvania to northern Ohio, and then at one time, 3 or 4 of the brothers packed up their farms and put them on boxcars and moved to Taylorville, Illinois. The one brother stayed, and my father stayed behind to help him out for a couple of years, and actually wasn't reunited with his family until maybe 8, 9 years later. Anyway, they were such astute businessmen. They decided that they didn't want to own farms. They became sharecroppers, and they when they moved to Taylorville, they made money by helping the white farmers in the area go to St. Louis to the stockyards to buy livestock. Okay, that was one of their skill sets, just to help select livestock, and they were paid for that. So when they came from Ohio, they had money. And they made the decision before they came that they were going to switch the script. They're not going to get into all that it takes financially to run a farm. They're going to share crop, hitchhike off the white boys, make money off of them. Okay, and that's what they did. So when Grandpa Scott moved to Springfield, and they moved to Cedar Street. He bought up half of Cedar Street.
Yeah, it was like blocks.
They lived on like 5 lots. Okay, where they had a mini farm. Okay.
All right. Well, there we go. There was the history lesson of our family.
Yes, perfect. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we come from a very, very rich stock of people.
Yeah.
And as you know better, you do better, right?
Hey,
So
Bill, do you have that picture that you posted yesterday of Grandma and Grandpa Scott
Cutting the cake.
cutting the cake? Yeah, I was like, holy cow, it looks just like me. Or it looked like Stanley Tucci, apparently.
The head that knows.
yeah, you guys do look a lot alike. I didn't recognize that until you mentioned it. But my mother, your grandfather, they were strong activists, and they instilled a lot of integrity into their children. They were firm, I would say, as parents. I think that as we have aged, we're a little bit gentler as parents.
Pushovers. Apparently.
we're not pushovers, but we're gentle. I mean, I remember 2 times where I got really upset with Amanda or Brooke. And one was Brooke tried to run across the street while a car was coming, and I grabbed her and I slapped her in the butt. And I was thinking to myself, you've been with your mom all day, and how did you and I go to the store? And how do I explain to her that, you just got ran over? Like, ah!
Yeah.
And then Amanda, I got mad when she was a teen, and she came to my house and she said, Dad, I had a company barbecue to go to.
Okay.
So it was like a summer company barbecue. And she said, I don't want to go. Do you mind if I go to Venice Beach? Some of my friends are going to go there, and I'd like to take the subway and then take the bus. And I'm like, okay, you're 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead and do it. And we were at dinner, and her mom called me, and she goes, "What are you guys doing?" And I told her, and I said, "And Amanda's going to go to Venice Beach tomorrow, and I'm going to go here." And she said, "I told that little that she couldn't go, and she's
played
using,
you.
yeah, she's playing you."
Yeah.
And I got mad because if Amanda had said, "Mom won't let me go, but can I go?" I probably would have said, "Yeah, let's do it." But
Yeah.
because she was intentionally deceitful, I got mad. So I drove her back home, and then she was in the back seat texting, and I told this to her all the time, and I said, "If you don't stop texting," because there was something about the way those fingers were working in the text that
Anger.
I know she was sitting there going, "My dad's such an asshole." Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, if you text one more thing, I'm going to throw your phone out the fucking window. And so I heard the thing go dink, and I said, "Give me your phone," and I threw it out the window. And she
Then
was
you're
like,
like, no.
no, she was like, "You're crazy, you're crazy." And then I realized, oh shit, now I have to buy her a new phone. but I always
flag.
I always believe that whatever you say to a child, you follow through with it.
Yeah.
So if you said, "Do one more thing, I'm going to throw your phone out the window," wasn't a threat. It's if you do it, then these are the consequences.
It's gonna happen. How old are your daughters now?
They are, Bill, they're 33. And I'm 22. So
Are they twins?
Yeah, how's that possible?
yes. And yes. And I always forget to tell people that, because when they ask and I go, "They're 33," they're like, "And how old's the other one?" And I'm like, yeah.
Wait, that we have to. I hope we could do a family get together soon, because there's so many. And so where are they right now? Are they still in California? Or are they in Miami with you?
They're in Los Angeles, and I'm in the doghouse because I took 3 positions that were outside of LA when they turned 17. So, and when I say doghouse, it means Brooke I have a grandson, and he's 2, and I haven't seen him in a year, and so she's like very upset about that.
Yeah.
And Amanda asked me about 6 months ago, could I come to LA? And I said, "Well, why don't you come to Miami?" And I think that upset her.
Okay.
Because
life's established in LA.
Huh? No. She wanted me to at least come out and visit.
Okay.
And in that moment, I'm like, well, I have 2 dogs.
Yeah.
And it's $500 to $1,000 just to board them. And then there's all the other components. I'm like, well, why don't you just fly here? And she said, well, we haven't been together as a family in a long time.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I did not hear her.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In that moment, I didn't hear that she was saying, I want us together. Okay. All of us. It's not about me seeing you. It's about all of us being in the same room and going to dinners and, being a family unit, not just, having things on your term.
Yeah.
Your terms. And everyone says, "Do you have a favorite daughter?" And I don't.
Okay.
But what I do have is different seasons.
Okay.
So Brooke has her season, Amanda has her season, because there's sometimes where you're just talking to one more than the other.
Yeah.
And it's not you love one more than the other. There's one that's communicating with you more, and so you're talking to them every day. When Brooke was pregnant, she hated me, and I really think that it was I don't know if I can say it, but I think it had to do with pregnancy and how women, how the male scent affects women.
Hormones. is what you're saying.
I don't want to say anything that gets me in trouble with women or Brooke, but I hugged her one time and she was like, "Why are you hugging me like that?" I'm like, "Whoa, like where did this come from?" And she doesn't remember it, but it kind of hurt my feelings, right?
Yeah.
So, I was leaving and I gave her a hug, and it was a really big hug because she was, 7 months pregnant, and
Yeah.
she's, I was excited for her, but I was
My daughter
missing
can
her.
be that way too, Billy. It's just like a lot of times she'll be like, "Don't touch me." Yeah.
It's
But
just
it was different during that period, and then I did not have a problem with her getting married at all. It was I was so happy for her. It's really what she wanted, but I felt our relationship changed when she became a mother. She became more attached to her mom.
yeah.
So I would say she was a daddy's girl for a long time. And then when she had Ace, going through the whole thing, being pregnant, it's something I couldn't
Couldn't.
relate to, where her mom understood, this is how she's feeling and this is what she needs. And then for the first couple of months, this is how I'm going to show up for her.
Yeah.
Where, I'm like, okay, I'm going to fly out. We're going to go to dinner. And she's like,
That's Well, you know how you
we're
say
not
that you
going
have
anywhere.
different seasons with your daughters. I feel like sometimes children have different seasons with their
Parents.
parents.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not. It could be difficult, but I don't think it's something to internalize. I think in that
Look at you giving me therapy.
I don't think it's but I do. I think it makes sense in that. I mean, I'll probably be the same way when I would consider myself close with my dad, but once I give birth and I'm a mother, I'm probably gonna go to my mother for advice.
Yeah.
But I'm sure then once is it a grandson?
Yeah. And we're back. We're back on track, right?
Yeah.
We're 100% back on track.
Yeah.
It was just, it was, I would talk to her every day.
Yeah.
And then, I call her and she doesn't pick up. And I'm like, why aren't you picking up?
Yeah.
Or I'll say something stupid. Never say this to your daughter, Mr. Scott, after she has a child. We would FaceTime all the time. And I would say, why haven't you combed your hair? And she would, like, the call would end.
Yeah.
I'm like, she has a toddler and, she's doing this.
Yeah.
She has a husband, but still, it's like, are you kidding me? I haven't slept in 4 days, and you're asking me why I haven't combed my hair.
Yeah, that's definitely a no.
Yeah, there's certain little landmines that I kept stepping in, and she was like, okay,
you need the space.
you're on timeout for a little bit until I can deal with you, because I'm trying to deal with him and my husband and all that goes along with it.
A lot.
Yeah, it is, but it is what
Hey,
it's great.
Billy, just a bookkeeping note. Olivia asked how long we ran. I told her about an hour. So I know she is a youngster and she has like lots of stuff she wants to do. So
I mean, I don't have a terrible amount right now. I've just moved into my apartment or my room in Princeton, so my day is very self-scheduled today. So there is no pressure. I have my new roommate who's the other girl living in the house. She just moved in. So, but no rush, but thank you for the bookkeeping. I do appreciate it.
I do too. And one of the things I want to say is, Olivia, you are so gracious because he has cut you off so many times.
what we do.
And you haven't told him, like, silence, sir. Silence.
It's before we got on here, and we were talking about how he's always late. I texted him, "Get your ass on here." So it's an on-screen facade. But
I'm not always late. What are you talking about?
I was telling her that you are.
Okay, now I'm exposing people, but I'm gonna expose myself. It's he definitely. Sometimes I can be kind of sharp, Dad. What do you think?
Yeah.
You can be sharp, Olivia.
Yeah, this is not. This is.
Yeah, she's fooling you guys with this whole charming thing.
Yeah.
And she can be like,
But I'm being on my best behavior.
Be you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But you know what we'll do? We'll save that for the next show.
Yeah.
Then you get like really rip and run.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't pissed me off a lot, so we're good.
But what's so interesting about that is, and I understand that you're an adult, and Amanda and Brooke, they're 33, but I still can't tell my mother that she's pissing me off. Can you tell your dad that? Bill? No. I'm talking to your dad.
Oh, you go, Dad.
Can you tell your dad?
I can.
Okay. All right.
I think so.
Well,
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Olivia. That he thinks he can.
Yeah, I would be scared.
I don't really bite my tongue too much.
That's true.
Okay.
No.
All right. So this has been for me a great conversation, and one of the reasons why I love it, and I'm talking to everyone out there because I've gotten some questions about, why do we go live and why do we do it? And what I find is a few things. First of all, we're able to touch on multiple different subjects.
Yeah.
We're able to learn about each other in a deeper aspect
Right.
than we would at a family reunion where we just like sat at a banquet hall for like 5 seconds and then, put on our best face, although I know that you're putting in your best face today. But we still had an honest, unfiltered conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're getting to know each other. And that's really what I want. And I want to continue that. Bill, is your dad listening?
Yes.
All right. So one of the things that Bill and I need to kind of figure out is what we're going to do for the summer. Because I think as a podcast, I think we should do like TV and take a hiatus and then come back in September, because a lot of you guys are traveling, and a lot of our contemporaries that have young children that are still in high school are taking family vacations or sending their kids to camp. And it's just a lot going on. So I think we might have 3 or 4 more episodes. My suggestion is that we close out in June.
I agree. Take July and August off.
Yeah. And then come back. But I would love to get Olivia on with Sundry, who is CJ's daughter. She's 17.
Nice.
And then Lisa Landis, her daughter, and Tony Landis's son, and whoever. I commend Bill Rochelle for bringing more of the family together. Thank you, Billy. Debbie, I sent you a link so you can come on and say hi to Olivia. So click on the link, come on, say hi. We're wrapping things up, but you talk a lot, so that could be 15. That could be 15 minutes of rapping.
Yeah. I would love to meet or see.
Yeah.
I still want. I do agree. What I like about the podcast is that it's an opportunity to get more in depth and have more fulfilling conversations. But I still want an in-person get together.
No. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what will happen is
maybe in Miami. I love Miami.
Come on. Okay. So the only thing I have to do is I need a housekeeper. So I haven't worked in a year. And so I thought to myself, why would I need a housekeeper if I'm not working? Yeah. And then I realized that I'm not cleaning up shit. So I just put together a planter outside, Bill, and I'm growing melons, lettuce, and peppers. Ooh. And I put it all together, but I refuse to run the vacuum. So it's not that I can't do something, or it's not that I don't have the time to do something.
It's just that you're just a slob.
No.
I am a man that needs certain luxuries.
Me, I'm a woman who needs certain luxuries.
Yeah, like I can keep my house clean for 2 weeks. So having someone come in once every 2 weeks is great.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
here's the deal. I think we need to think of a way to monetize this podcast so that way you can say, "Hey, I have a job."
well, I'm actually looking aggressively now, and I feel there are some things in the pipeline that will work out. I think that we should monetize the podcast as it grows. Um, I I had a conversation yesterday that I think if that conversation gets some thought behind it, I think that would work out really well and get us into a new audience.
Yeah,
However, we need that person to make the decision without any pressure. But so I'm trying to segment off right into
Yeah.
different directions.
Gotcha.
expand.
And yeah, and so Bill and I will reach a certain audience, and you will reach a whole different audience. And Brooke just did a mommy post on TikTok that just took off, and she called me today, and because I told her, I said, I want to do these 3 separate things. I'll tell you about hers. I won't tell you about the other one. Your dad can tell you. But hers, I said, you're 33, you're 30 something with a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And there's an audience that will resonate with what you're going through, even if you do like a thought of the day. And she did one yesterday just about how she wishes that she had someone that can come into her home for 2 hours once a week or every other day, and she could just go in her room and shut the door. She said she gets people to help with her child when her and her husband go out someplace, or when they have date night or something like that. But she wants someone just to come in, not so that she's away from her child, but so that she can go in her bedroom and shut the door and read a book for like 2 hours. And
I'm gonna let you finish. You go
first. No, that was it, really.
Well, I only did this a couple of times when I was younger to make some change, but I would do something like that for moms. It's called a mother's helper, mommy's helper, where I would just take care of the kids and the mom would chill in the house. So she should look into something like that, because I think it made a big difference for the mom.
Was it a service that you went through?
No, I would get in contact with moms.
Word of mouth.
They would, word of mouth. They would hire me.
Okay, so that's a whole different business.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool to set something like that up as a connector. However, I know that care.com does things like that for moms and also for hospice. But I think you're onto something there where people can actually do that. So now that we're talking, hopefully someone can get in contact with Brooke. And,
there you go.
And give her the help that she needs. And she doesn't need help. She just, she wants to be able to go in her bedroom and not have anyone.
Have some me time. I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Scott, I am wrapping up. Olivia, is there anything that you, first of all, what were your thoughts about coming on?
Well, I was a little nervous at first. I've never done a podcast before, but the conversation flowed so smoothly.
You were natural. You really are.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really did enjoy it. It was I've had a lot of free time today, so it was a good use of my time. And I'm happy I got to meet a new cousin, Deborah. I hope I can meet you sometime soon. I'm glad I got to talk with my.
I think you've actually met Deborah before, but you were real little.
I've met Deborah, but I mean,
Yeah.
see her again or be on the podcast.
And it's different when you're 5 and you meet someone versus when you're 20 and you meet somebody.
But thank you guys so much for having me. I hope I can be on another one soon.
That's definitely up to you. And let's Bill and I will figure out the final episode for this season. And then maybe we'll just have everyone that came on before just come on for a second.
Absolutely.
And just give everyone like a little bit of time.
Do a little season finale. That's
yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Talk your brother into coming on.
I will. I was talking to him last night. I will. I'll
Oh,
talk.
really?
Yeah,
Did-
yeah.
How's he doing?
He's doing good. He was he just on the podcast?
No,
Not yet.
him and I spoke yesterday.
Okay.
But what I told you earlier is that I don't speak to people before they come on. So
Yes.
I spoke to him about a very specific thing,
Yes.
and then, but I didn't go into who he is and any of that stuff. I just said, you're going into college. Well, I don't want to go talk about it until.
No, I know.
yeah.
Look,
Okay,
keep it under wraps. No,
Yeah.
he briefed me.
Okay.
I'm in the know. So
Okay. All right. Good.
I think it's a good idea, and I'm gonna try to convince him.
Yeah. So part of it would be, okay, I got to shut up. So
Yeah.
So
Okay, guys, we're ending the show now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was so nice.
Bye,
to meet
guys.
you.
Bye, Liv. Love you, Liver.
Bye.
See you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Your dad just ended it.
Yeah. How do I leave? Oh, stop. All right. Bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much for having me. See you soon.
Bye.